Today on Facing Life Head On, many Americans don't realize that abortion is legal throughout the entire 9 months of pregnancy. Well, today we're going to dispel that notion, and we're also going to expose the fact that many children aren't welcome in life and protected by law. Starting out in the most vulnerable state of life, babies depend on the compassion of others for survival, and that's never been truer than now. We began an investigation of late-term abortions by meeting with key congressional leaders in Washington, D.C. Though most Americans know the Supreme Court's ruling in Roe v. Wade made abortion legal, few realize to what extent.
A lot of people have the misunderstanding that Roe only allowed certain types of abortions at certain times, and in reality, Roe allows an abortion for virtually any reason at any time, even for sex selection. So if a person finds out that they're pregnant with a little girl and maybe they wanted a little boy, get rid of the baby. I mean, that's allowed under Roe.
In Roe versus Wade, the court itself said, we need not resolve the difficult question of when human life begins. That is the question. What do you mean you can sidestep it just because you say you can? And others have suggested, the constitutional scholars and others, if the personhood of the unborn, the humanity of the unborn child is affirmed, Roe falls like a house of cards.
With abortion legal throughout the 9 months of pregnancy, up until birth itself, there is a startling number of thriving babies being killed.
For people to get an idea how big we're talking about, you literally look at your hand. The width of your hand from the tip of your finger down to your wrist, that's a 20-week baby, about that big, not counting the legs. That's head to rump, which is the way we measure them. If you turn your hand on its side, the width of your hand is about 12 weeks. That's about how big they are at 12 weeks. And so when you're talking 24 weeks, now you're talking a hand and a half, even bigger. These are fully formed children. There's no blob of cells involved here. These are, as I said, every abortionist knows that.
Occasionally, especially if the process proceeded pretty rapidly, you could end up with a live birth. And because those babies were expelled by contractions of the uterus, and sometimes the babies were alive when they were born.
So what'd you do then?
You just left them to die. A lot of times we, would leave the room and, leave it in charge of the nurse who would, we weren't there a lot of times to see what happened.
Nearly 500,000 babies are born prematurely each year. Most born after 22 weeks are generally considered viable, and medical professionals are expected to give the baby the benefit of proper care. But unborn babies at the same stage, so far along that they could live outside the womb, can legally be killed by abortion. Sherry Richard is one of the nation's leading 3 and 4D ultrasound technicians. She says new ultrasound technology offers real-time moving images of life in the womb. But women going in for abortions aren't likely to be offered a chance to see their baby's sonogram.
The normal procedure is to never show a woman that is considering abortion her ultrasound. In fact, I have a quote from an OBGYN doctor who performed abortions, who wrote that, Sally Faith Dorfman, she wrote that ultrasound can have psychological effects to a woman considering abortion. And in her article, she stressed that the screen be turned away from the woman. And then she goes on and she says, staff members may also be affected by the sonographic image of the moving embryo and may need opportunities to vent her feelings and reconfirm her commitments. Is that brainwash or is it? This is what they teach the medical community, to desensitize yourself from the ultrasound screen, seeing your own baby. What's wrong with that?
Congressman Chris Smith has dedicated his life to promoting human rights and helping the world's most vulnerable. He says the abortion industry doesn't serve the interests of women.
Women have been sold a bill of goods. They've been lied to, they've been deceived, and they are the walking wounded and carry with them the scars of their abortion, both in their minds, hearts, and souls. Women are walking into clinics every day being abused by abortionists. There's an enormous amount of disinformation and lies that are foisted upon women at a vulnerable period of time in their lives when they're unintendedly pregnant. They need help then, not abandonment to an abortion clinic.
It's been almost 10 years since Kelly Dickerson went through a late-term abortion at the hands of George Tiller, America's most notorious abortionist, who has performed more than 60,000 abortions. Many of them were in the second and third trimesters.
When I was 13, I got pregnant, and my period wasn't regular at that time, so I wasn't really aware that I was pregnant. I didn't know what those symptoms were. I just, excused them as depression or other things like that. And so by the time I did go to the doctor, she told me that I was 5 months pregnant, and I was 14 at that time. The people in my life that were most important to me and that I looked up to and that taught me right and wrong were telling me that this was the only option, which was a shock to me because they were very anti-abortion before this happened. But, when your important figures in your life are telling you that this is what you should do, you kind of just go along with it.
Kelly was flown to Tiller's abortion facility in Kansas. Kelly, what went through your mind as you went to the abortion facility?
I just remember being scared, and the whole way there I was just, depressed, tired, numb.
A visit to the family doctor confirmed Kathy Rutledge was pregnant at age 18.
He came out and told my mother and me that I was definitely pregnant. He also said that I was pretty far along and that we needed to hurry.
When we come back,
about the third or fourth day, the doctor came in and shot into my belly the saline solution, and after that I didn't feel my baby kick anymore.
Thank you for inviting us into your home. Each week we feature real people who deal with real-life issues head-on. Some of their experiences are uplifting, while others will break your heart. But in the end, the message is clear. Those who follow biblical principles on the issues of life are blessed. Become a partner with us in providing a positive, life-affirming message to help change the way the next generation values innocent human life. Please consider a generous gift to help offset the costs of producing this important quality programming. You can donate on our secure website at facinglife.tv or by calling the phone number on your screen during normal business hours. Together, we can make a real difference for life.
our focus this week is on the estimated 150,000 late-term abortions performed each year in the United States. Kelly Dickerson was just 14 when, 5 months pregnant, she was taken to Kansas for an abortion.
There was a process of 5 days. They stick these expandable things into your cervix so that they're slowly dilating you over the 5 days. About the third or fourth day, the doctor came in and shot into my belly the saline solution, and after that I didn't feel my baby kick anymore. And on the 5th day, they put you in hospital beds, like, 10 women in a room in hospital beds. And they force you into labor. They give you these little pills that put you into labor, and they slowly go down the line of whoever's dilated enough, and then they put you in a wheelchair and wheel you off to another room where I sat on a toilet, and the nurse said, "Lean on me and push," and I did, and that's where I left my baby, was in a toilet.
They put me on a table. I still wasn't sure what was going on. I wasn't certain about fetal development. No one explained anything to me. I didn't receive any counseling, but I did have a lot of questions. I kept asking if it was a baby yet.
You understand what the baby looks like at any stage of pregnancy. How did you persuade yourself that pulling these children apart in the womb is an ethical thing to do as a doctor?
Of course a doctor knows fetal development. And not only that, if you didn't, you'd be reminded of it every time you do an abortion. And when you do an abortion, whether it's a suction abortion where all the contents are pulled into the suction machine in a container, or much more graphically, when you're doing a second trimester abortion, literally pulling a baby to pieces, when it's over, you have to go through the material that you obtained. You go through that suction bottle inside the machine, or you literally look at the parts that you've pulled out and you almost literally reassemble the baby. You have to take inventory. You have to make sure you got 2 arms and 2 legs and all the pieces. Because if you leave anything behind, your patient's going to come back infected, bleeding, or worse. On the other hand, when you're pro-choice, you have this mindset that says, well, I'm here to help my patient. But you're not thinking of that baby as a patient at all. You're completely ignoring that aspect of it. Your patient is that young lady. And you're going to help her get through college, or not be a single mom, or complete her, whatever it is, whatever her reasoning is, and whatever is motivating her to come there, you're there to help.
First, they put a board with some needles into my stomach, and it made me so sick, just the sight of it, that I raised up off the table and I was going to leave. I told them I had changed my mind. But the nurse that was attending me pushed me back and said it was too late.
They put you in a state of what they call twilight consciousness. So, you have an IV that's making it so that, you're groggy, but you still can move and respond to direction.
I was having terrible pains, violent pains, and the next thing I knew was that something had happened. I didn't really know what had happened. I think possibly because, you're drugged. But I knew something had happened. And I started ringing the nurse's bell. Someone did come, and it was an intern. And he came into the room and he reached below me and held something up in front of my face. And I started screaming. It wasn't supposed to be a baby yet. It wasn't supposed to be a baby yet. And I just kept screaming that. And so he hung it closer in my face. And he said, "What did you think it was supposed to be?" And then he took something and cut the cord, and the baby dropped into a trash can right beside my hospital bed. Well, at that point, I was really screaming over and over and over again that it wasn't supposed to be a baby yet. And then someone came into my room. It was a woman, a nurse, who once again injected me in my side with a needle, and I went off to sleep again. When I woke up, my mom was back at my side, and I said, "Mom, where's the baby?" And she said, "There is no baby, Kathy. We got it in time. There's no baby." I said, "Mom, there is a baby. I want to see the baby." And at that point, I wanted the baby back. Don't know why I wanted the baby back, but I wanted my baby back. That day, my heart was destroyed, and I was never the same.
Do you know who actually did the abortion?
Dr. Tiller?
Did he talk to you before the procedure?
No.
Did he acknowledge you there?
Briefly. I mean, I just remember, short comments like, "This will all be over soon," stuff like that. But I only saw him twice, when he came and gave me the shot of saline, and after I had pushed the baby out, he got the afterbirth out. So Those were the only 2 times I saw him.
And after you delivered the baby, they just ushered you out of that room?
Out of that room into another room where they put me on a metal table so that the doctor could then come in and remove the afterbirth. And then I was put back in, a hospital bed for a short time and then sent on my way, and that was the end of it.
Coming up,
Looking down at this pile of goo on the table that used to be somebody's son or daughter. That was just major crisis time for me.
Thanks again for joining us. It's our hope and prayer you find this program inspiring, heartwarming, and motivating. Remember, quality programming like this is only possible when people who care become partners with us for life. Please become a partner by sending your gift through our secure website at facinglife.tv or call the phone number on your screen during normal business hours. We need you to succeed. Here's another way you can help. We'd love to hear from you. Let us know what you think of the program and share your ideas for future topics or guests. The next generation is depending on us to give them the information they need to face life head on. We'll see you next week, and may God bless you.
While some physicians are fighting to save the lives of babies born prematurely, others make a living out of killing ones the same age while still in the womb, even in the 3rd trimester. Many are past the point of viability, so well developed they could survive life outside the womb. Tony Levatino, a former abortionist, says he has no regrets about leaving the profession.
My partner and I were doing 2nd trimester D&E abortions. A D&E 2nd trimester abortion is literally tearing a baby to pieces. One of the instruments that you use during that procedure is called a Sofer clamp. Basically, it's a clamp that's used to literally dismember or rip these babies apart. And I remember putting that clamp inside the uterus and pulling like you always have to be able to get pieces out, and out came an arm or a leg, and I remember just staring at it in the clamp. And I just froze for a second. I mean, this just absolutely made me sick. Looking down at this pile of goo on the table that used to be somebody's son or daughter.